to, I would say, welcome on stage a digital savvy. He used to be the previous State Secretary for Science, Innovation and Technology, but now the Secretary of State, Peter Kyle, for a dialogue on how we can strengthen our digital partnership. Please welcome on stage.
Thank you. Where do you want me? The other side. Thank you.
So a Brexit reset.
Indeed.
And we're very lucky that actually to get someone as a Secretary of State who knows everything about technology.
I wouldn't say I know everything, but I aspire to know as much as I can to make the right policies for which tech companies, for innovators, those creating innovation, who are scaling innovation, to flourish.
So I know that you were one of the negotiators of the UK-US deal. So how do we do that on the digital agenda? How can we strengthen our collaboration?
Well, firstly, the reset was part of our manifesto, the platform we stood on at the last election. So for people who are looking at us as a political party, saying, well, that's our political narrative to have a reset with the EU, bear in mind that that is what the country voted for. So as the Prime Minister said just the other day, that those Brexit days are gone. We are now a country that's looking forward, and that means having a reset, not just with the EU, but many of our other key allies as well, as we reconfigure our role and what we have to offer and bring to the table. This isn't about Britain going back trying to sort of recreate the days of the past. I just simply don't believe that Britain and its people are looking over its shoulder. We are looking firmly to the future. And it's very clear when you look at the global economy, the future lies in AI, automation, drone technology, climate technology, health technology, life sciences and biotech. These are the areas, and when you add space into it as well, you're looking at an economy globally which is being completely transformed. Now, these are all areas where Britain, with its 4 of the world's top 10 universities, with its having the 3rd largest market for AI, having the largest number of unicorns on the continent of Europe, being the startup capital of Europe, and being the third market in the world when it comes to unicorns, has a lot to offer. But because of the size of Britain, it would be much, much better if we had partners and global partners to really help fulfill our potential. Now, with the US, obviously, there's a logic there. It took 5 months to deliver the tech partnership and to negotiate the tech partnership. That delivers $300 billion worth of commercial activity in key sectors between Britain and the United States. It is partnerships in nuclear, in AI, and in quantum, and a couple of other specific areas where you can have the flow of IP, collaboration with higher education, business and public sectors, collaborations, and also the coordination of funding. Now, there is nothing in there that has any impact if that same agreement was pointed towards the EU. It would have no bearing on treaties of the past or agreements and any other fundamentals, institutional arrangements such as the single market, the customs union, or the EU itself. So, I'm here talking about, yes, some of the issues, the knotty issues that we need to deal with between the two territories, but our sights are focused on the horizon, which is the things we could achieve together if we're working together as two territories on those high growth, high potential, high reward sectors, which is represented by people in this room.
And looking at two numbers, so on our trade relations, EU goods export to UK is 336 billion, and the service is 280. And I'm hearing you say, we are changing how we invest. We're investing in AI. We are transforming how we are doing our administrations, how we are investing in our country. So I guess here you have a lot of quantum companies, AI companies, and they are now listening, thinking, is the UK really putting, the money where the mouth is?
Oh, we absolutely are, but particularly, look, on the innovation side, firstly, with AI, you get the infrastructure right. So I set up the AI growth zones. That program's now underway. We will have 3 of the continent's largest hyperscale data centers up and running, in quick speed. 1 in England, 2 in Wales, and 1 in Scotland. The first one of those will be the largest that's ever been built on this continent. We've upgraded digital infrastructure to become critical national importance. Data centers are now have a priority in the planning system, and that's just on the infrastructure side. Then we look on the skills side. We're training 7.5 million people in the broad economy, 1 million students in the next 18 months to 2 years. And then on the capital side, because we know that AI is very capital intensive, we are reforming our pension landscape. We are finding ways to unlock savings and pension funding to get it back to the point where it is able to match the scale of investments needed, to match the scale of ambition that you as innovators and commercializers of innovation need. When it comes to scale up, in this job, because I'm now business and trade, now have set up a £4 billion fund directly aimed at scaling up. And that, just in the last couple of weeks, we've taken a equity stake as a British state in Kraken, the spin out from Octopus. We've just yesterday took an equity stake in Wave, the automated car innovation company. And now these are the biggest equity stakes a British state has ever taken in any company. And you're now going to see a steady pipeline of those equity investments into the future. Alongside that £4 billion fund will be there to help capitalise venture capital firms that are investing in the UK tech landscape, not just UK-based ones, but European and American ones that want to come to the UK to start investing. And the exam question for me has been for some time now, why is it that the continent of Europe has never had a $1 trillion company? America has obviously got the Magnificent Seven, but they seem to be producing them every 7 or 8 months. Another one hits the $1 trillion market cap. Now, why is it that the continent of Europe, and it's serious, and I feel so passionately about this, but why has the continent of Europe not produced one? I was in China just a couple of weeks ago with the Prime Minister. Now, because they have a domestic consumption market now, which people underestimate, they are able to innovate, and they are investing in innovation in a quite startling fashion. They're able to commercialize and upscale domestically before going international at a scale that is quite astonishing. But we in Europe seem to be completely stuck because we have the constituent parts that both America and China have, but we're not good enough yet at coordinating those constituent parts to support and back and upscale and keep the innovation and the upscaling of innovation, the scaling of innovation, to a degree that America and China seem to be doing. And it's a frustration to me because we have it. We're just not doing it. And this is one of the things that Britain and Brussels, working closer together, could actually unlock.
I know definitely that the Commission also plans a scale-up fund with the exact same amount of money as UK. So maybe the combination can actually bring that. So
I agree, and I have had conversations with commissioners just this morning on that very issue.
Yeah. So you came just from Belmont right now, and there's all this talk about made in Europe and by Europe, etc. So what do you make on that for the digital sovereignty and made in Europe requirement?
Well, the first thing is that my approach to this isn't to come, when it comes to made in Europe, to come on the negative to try and stop something happening. I'm here selling a positive, and that's that collaboration with Britain actually can unlock potential that is unlikely to be unlocked if we're just working together as 2 separate territories. Secondly, is to make the point that our economy, when it comes to manufacturing in particular, is totally integrated. The supply chains for automotive and aerospace are totally integrated, the UK and Europe. BMW manufacturing in the UK, for example. Airbus manufacturing wings and other components in the UK. Airbus manufacturing some of the space craft that they are developing, satellite technology, using components from across the continent of Europe. So it makes sense that we actually reinforce that not try and diminish it. Now, sovereignty and resilience are two things that we are thinking very carefully about as a continent and as individual nation states. And it's really important that we do so in a way that's fit for the moment we're living in. The Trump tariffs, of course, are highly disruptive. The rise of China, oversupply and subsidies in certain parts of the world are big issues. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and I can go on and on and on. So we do need to think about what resilience means, and of course post-COVID as well, what resilience means in the world that we're in. But I strongly believe that there are areas with our closest and most important neighbours where resilience should be tackled together. Amongst your closest and your most trusted allies. And if we tackle resilience as nations and a collection of nations together, then I believe that we can create economic benefit from that resilience, not just turn to protectionism that if we look inwards would actually hinder the kind of economic development that resilience is there to deliver for our people in good times and in times of challenge.
Yeah, so first of all, we've seen UK really stepping up and supporting Ukraine to a degree that's really plausible. So a big thank you. This organization is very involved in Ukraine also. And speaking about defense, so there was this partnership, defense and security partnership. And technology plays a major role. So Ukraine showed that it's digital at the forefront. It's really a game changer for how warfare is not even, I would say, will be in the future, but is at the current state. So how can we work together on defense and security and also / digital security and digital defense with the UK?
It's a very big question, and there's actually lots of different layers to the response to it. So there are formal partnerships, institutional partnerships, which Britain and the continent of Europe are bound together in, NATO being the best example of it. There are other ways that we want to work with the EU to support both Ukraine's defence at its hour of need, but also crucially its reconstruction as well, post-invasion, which couldn't come soon enough, but must of course respect the sovereignty needs of the Ukrainian people. But when you look at defence in general, one of the most striking things is just how much heavy, large R&D and innovation is happening outside of the state. It is one of the most profound changes in society and the role of the state that's happened in recent decades. And when you see now the NASA space program going back to the moon, it is entirely being driven by private sector innovation being harnessed by the state, not as it was a generation ago, state innovation, which was spinning out commercial opportunities that was then privatized outside the state, a complete reversal. So we must make sure that we are harnessing the best of innovation, not just across society in the way we deliver public services such as health, but also in the way we defend ourselves and deliver national security. And it is a real challenge because the culture of defence, going back not just from the Second World War onwards, but going right the way back to medieval times, has always been delivered from within a very close community within the state, under the control, very, very central control. But like any other part of society, we need to capture innovation where it is and not expect innovation to conform to the way that the state does things. And it is very, very challenging for defence departments, whether it's in the US, across the continent of Europe. And we can't let China just rattle ahead with it simply because they have one state. They have a very different model of the state, which embraces innovation in a different way, and of course fosters innovation in a very different way. So dual-use technologies, we need to get much better at having conversations between dual-use innovators and the defensive community and the ministries of defensive communities. In the UK, when I was the technology secretary, myself and the defence secretary doing a lot of work together with our two teams, but we knew that culturally we had to be present as two secretaries of state to drive the culture change more than you would in any other circumstance that I've experienced in my 18 months in government.
Yeah. So you mentioned, that all of a sudden all this innovation is moving from the state and swinging into private sector and just happening on the battlefield with people who are from companies instead of from states. And of course, in this room, you have innovators, you have the top unicorns, etc., and they are all looking at the government saying like, how can we be the bridge? So how? And you heard that we have this D7 matching the G7. How can we help to be the bridge between nations to understand that we actually need EU and UK to go hand in hand and like make a market there where we can grow and innovate?
Well, I think you already are in many ways. I mean, we obviously have Julian and Tech UK and other sort of interlocutors in the UK. Firstly, the challenge is to spot where the innovation is. And when it's coming from spin-outs from universities or collaboration between public research and private research, it's happening very, very deeply embedded. And those are the nuggets that are going to be disruptive and fast emerging. And those are the moments where we need to be really attuned to it. And I appear at a lot of different conferences, and I was one last summer, and I was on the stage in summer in London with Jensen Huang, which of course his presence brought in enormous amounts of people who would never come and see a politician come and talk about tech. And then afterwards, when I was having a similar conversation with Jensen on stage, afterwards, as I was leaving, people were flooding over to me saying, you need to know, and some of those companies that I met there are now having their conversations with government. And we need to do more of that kind of thing. And people who are doing these sorts of, I mean, in that case, it was a very specific drone technology, which blew my mind away when I heard about what the capabilities were. And only 2 employees, but their intellectual property could be transformative. These sorts of things are out there. And I couldn't get to sleep at night if I thought that they were heading off to America because of funding, or heading off to America or to another country because our Defence Department isn't engaging with them in the way that they believe their innovation needs to in order to flourish. So we have to find a very different way of making ourselves accessible as policymakers, politicians, and people who are in the frontline defensive industry, in the armed forces.
First of all, thank you so much for coming here today. Means a lot to us. And a commitment from Digital Europe, and I'm sure from Tech UK, to actually bring that bridge and to bring those stakeholders together and make sure that we get a tech partnership also with the UK.
Great. Thanks for having me, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Okay.